Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on using ChatGPT and AI tools for huge productivity gains. I'm Peter Talion, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our presenter today is Matthew Krieger. More on Matt in just a moment. First, some brief information on SCORE. There are over 320 offices of SCORE nationwide with 11,000 plus volunteers. We are part of the Small Business Administration. In Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide variety of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer three primary value-added services to small business owners: free one-on-one counseling, educational workshops and webinars, over 100 a year, and extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts at your disposal and templates to build business plans, financial projects, etc. I would suggest you take some time to check out our calendar on our website for upcoming webinars. New events are being added daily. I'd also like to mention to those of you who live in the Shelton, Connecticut area that there is an in-person seminar this evening, July 17th from 6:30 to 8 o'clock at the Greater Valley Chamber of Commerce at 10 Progress Drive in Shelton. The seminar this evening is how to improve the financial performance of your small business. It's open to both new and experienced entrepreneurs, and it's being led by one of our most popular presenters, Joe McCaffrey. Now let me talk about today's event. We have set aside time throughout the presentation for Q's and A's. So I would ask that you use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to put your question, and Matt will then take those questions periodically throughout the presentation. Our webinar will end today at 1:30 Eastern Time. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now our speaker. Matthew Krieger is a technologist and executive with experience in IT, manufacturing, and nonprofit. He is president of Cobra, founder of Whisper, a service for creating high-quality text-to-speech, and he has held senior IT leadership positions at Time and at the Reader's Digest. It's now my great pleasure to turn over today's seminar to Matt. Matt, it's all yours.
Thanks, Peter. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Please go ahead.
Super. So the format of today's presentation is going to be primarily lots of examples. And what I've done in order to make things run smoothly is I've pre-recorded those examples. I'll be playing them. We'll be pausing briefly in between. Afterwards, we will send out links not only to the entire webinar recording, but to the individual videos of each example. The intent in what I show you today is that the tools and technologies and techniques will be all actionable by you. You'll be able to log on and do those same things with not a lot of setup. They'll be accessible to you, meaning that there's not a technology hurdle or a financial hurdle in general to getting these tools. So many are free. So the goal with these examples is really to get you to dive in and start using these tools. I've picked examples. They may or may not be relevant to everybody, but the point is to show you what's possible. I want to spend 2 minutes talking about some basic definitions. When we talk about generative AI, we're talking about AI that can interface with you in a human-like way. And the generative part means that the AI can create new content, new text, new images, new ideas with inputs. A model is a piece of terminology you hear all the time in the AI space. A model is a piece of AI that's trained on some data. It could be trained on the internet. It could be trained on medical images. It could be trained on language. Any sort of AI model is trained on very large data sets to recognize patterns and make decisions. An LLM is a specific type of model. It's a large language model, and it refers to those AI models that understands natural language, voice, text, and so on. You hear every day in the news about ChatGPT. Maybe you've heard about Claude. Maybe you've heard about Google's Gemini. These are all LLMs. They're all chatbots that are built with LLM models and generative AI technology. They understand language. They understand voice. They can look at images and create new images and create new content, new audio, new video, new text. Generative AI is sort of a black box, literally. Even the people who design this stuff have trouble seeing inside about what's going on. It's really a lot of it akin to magic. There's a ton of math, there's a ton of computer science, there's a ton of numbers. And you put in inputs, and sometimes you get outputs that you don't expect. These technologies can do things that were not predicted, and they call these emergent behaviors. So we'll see some examples of that later. If you think about where we are in AI, we're sort of between 1 and 2 right now. AI, generative AI. Now, and by the way, AI has been developed for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. But when it comes to that which touches the mainstream, you know, we're still sort of at the part of snazzy demos. They're kind of fun. They're kind of gratuitous. They don't do a lot. Really, we're getting into phase 2 now, which is using AI tools to make you more productive. And that's the focus of today's webinar. And then phase 3 and beyond is the real impact of AI. How will it impact your business, society, you? We don't know yet. As I said, the phase 2 is really where this webinar focuses. It's about you using generative AI to multiply your productivity. And one comment I want to make, any of these images that you see throughout were generated with ChatGPT and their DALL-E custom GPT, which can create images that are free to use. What I'm going to do now is we're going to hop into the examples. I'm going to put the PowerPoint window to the left side of my screen, and we should see a video player window to the right side of the screen. We're going to leave the left side on so that we can see what video is going, and I'm going to play one by one the demos. Peter, does the screen look okay to you? If so, I'll start.
Matt, it does. Please go ahead.
Here we go. Some of today's demos are going to be using sample data that is in an Excel spreadsheet. And there's no better way that I've found to generate sample data than using some of the generative AI tools. So here we have ChatGPT 4.0, and I'm going to tell it a bit about what I need from it. So I'm going to say, my company sells hand tools. Generate me a list of fake customer data. I want 100 records. I'm going to pause 1 second here and make one comment, which is that all I did to get to this point was I went to chatgpt.openai.com. You can make a free account, you can make a paid account, and you can start doing this right away. There should be a customer ID, first name, last name, last name, email address, zip code, total purchase amount, birthday, day and month, and product categories purchased. The customer ID should, let's say, start at 1 and go up from there. I want all data fake and random. Zip codes should be valid US zip codes, and email addresses should be valid, should be properly formatted random emails. The birthday column format should be month, day. Let's see what else. For the categories purchased, include one or more at random of the following categories: saws, measuring tools, drills, storage, and other. Put the categories, show the categories separated by commas. Give it to me in a table. And we'll let it churn away. You can see how the sausage is made here if you decide to click that arrow. Not really relevant. You can turn it off and just wait, but sometimes it's entertaining to see it think. So let's see what it gives. So here we go. So we got some fake customer data. We got the IDs like we want. First name, last name. Looks like we have properly formatted email addresses. I don't know if these zip codes are valid, but let's assume they are for a minute. We got birthdays, random, and we have categories exactly as I wanted. Now let's do one more thing. I'm going to say, do it again, but add a column with the last purchase date. Format it as month, day, and 4-digit year. Let's see what it does. It should give it to me again. Depending on how much data you ask for, you may have to wait. That's part of the name of the game here. Things are getting faster and faster, but it's certainly easier than doing it yourself. So let's give this a minute and let's see what happens. Here we go. And we got data. Look, everything looks good, except you'll notice we have a comma in there. That's actually not what we wanted, but it's helpful because we're going to show later how to fix that. Now, finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, save this for me as an Excel spreadsheet. There we go. And now I can download and view the spreadsheet. Let's open it up and see how it did. Okay, it looks pretty good. I think it's pretty much what we were looking for. Now you can continue to work on the data with Excel, or we can go back to ChatGPT or some of the other tools and manipulate further. But if you want sample data to be generated, maybe you're doing what if scenarios for financial planning or budgeting. Maybe you're trying to learn how to use QuickBooks and you'd like to get some data into the system. Whether you're looking to learn Excel and you want some good data to play with, this is a good way to generate that data. We're going to move on to example number 2 now. Some of today's demos are going to be using sample data that is in an Excel. Many of us have had situations where we have data in spreadsheet format and it needs to be reformatted or edited, and you need to do it in mass. So we look at this spreadsheet here. It has 100 rows in it, and you'll notice that in the birthday column and last purchase date column, we have these commas after the month and before the day, and it looks funny, right? We don't want that. It's really not a valid format. Now, we could write Excel formulas to look at that text and find that bad comma and replace it with a space, and it's sort of a pain. Let's have ChatGPT do it for us. So what we want here is it simply to say January 15, November 20, October 14th. Last purchase date, we want to say July 9, 2023, or whatever format we want. So let's tell ChatGPT in this example to fix that data for us. So what I've done here is I've got the data in a spreadsheet. I'm going to open up ChatGPT again, and I'm going to drag that data into ChatGPT. And I'm going to say, reformat the data in the birthday and last purchase date columns as follows. The birthday column should be month and day separated by a space only. The last purchase date column should be month, day, and year with spaces in between only. Let's see what it does. So it's taken the spreadsheet that I uploaded, and first it displays it as it is. Now it goes and it does its thing. And you can see behind the scenes, this is not essential to see, but it does give you a little bit of sense of how it thinks. You can see now it's taking a sample of the data, applying the rules that we told it, and giving us the output. And let's check. December 7th, 2023, July 9th, looks pretty good. This looks pretty good too. And now we can say, save this as an Excel sheet. And boom, we get a link. Let's open it up. Data looks good. Save this as a PDF. We'll give that a minute also. Okay, the PDF doesn't look so slick. Some things you have to try multiple times. Let's do it one more time. Save this as a Word document. We'll give it a try. Looks pretty good. We've got to formulate or format the margins, but the data looks good. It's there. We'll go on to example number 3, which is more about fixing and formatting data.
Another example of fixing up data is this spreadsheet. We've got a list of several hundred phone numbers. They're all formatted differently. Some have periods, some have dashes, some have parentheses, some have spaces, some have no spaces. Let's figure that out. I should say, let's sort that out and clean it up. Create a second column in the spreadsheet with the phone numbers standardized to the following format. Give me a link to save the spreadsheet. So that's a preview of the original data. And I think just in a few seconds here, because it isn't too much data, there we go. Standardized phone number, it looks good. Didn't give me a proper link. I can tell it. The link didn't work. And there we go. A little bit of nudging. Let's open that up. And now we have a second column with a much better looking phone number.
Imagine how long it would have taken to do in Excel if you were not an Excel expert. So let's go on to the next example, which is finding things in the real world.
In this example, we're going to get some help finding stuff on crowded supermarket shelves. So this is a photo here of some sauces. Find me the Heinz 57 with the green logo. Green logo, left side of the image, directly above Lee and Perrins. Well, it's not clear to me that it's right above the Lee and Perrins, but it was on the left, so it sort of got that right. Let's try a new chat, and this time we'll give it the drug aisle. Find me the low dose Bayer. Low dose Bayer image on the fourth shelf towards the right side, Bayer low dose, small yellow. And it looks like it got that one pretty good.
Before we go on to the next demo, one of my panelists nudged me and made a good point. In my first example where I use the AI to generate data, it's maybe a good example of a demo, but why would that be useful in real life? I do a lot of presenting, particularly financial workshops, and one of the challenges that is communicated to me by so many of the new or want to be entrepreneurs who are at the presentations is, I don't have any business yet. How can I play with my sales forecast? How can I make a budget? How can I learn QuickBooks? How can I test all these tools? How can I get my hands wet, doing these things? And one way to do that is to generate data for your system. There's no better way to really get good at managing and manipulating data than actually doing it. So generating that data can be very useful. Let's move on to example number 5, and I think after number 5 we'll take a question or two. This is another photo example. You know what? I'm going to do 5. Well, no, let's do 5 and then we'll move on. At my company, we have boxes of electronics on the shelf. Here's a couple of photos that I just took. So we have 1 and we have 2, and it's basically a bunch of boxes of miscellaneous stuff. Now, I want to take an inventory here. I could run around, I could scan the UPC codes, I could write down what's on the shelf with a clipboard. I could go over with my smartphone and log everything. Let's see if the AI models can help us here. I'm going to drag those photos in. Give me an inventory of items in tabular format. The spelling really doesn't matter. It's sort of like Google, it'll figure it out. Include the manufacturer name, product name, and UPC code. Let's see how it does. That's not bad for a few moments of work. They are terminal blocks that got that right. Are the UPC codes right? I'm not exactly sure, but it's just an attempt. Maybe if we took a better photo, we'd get better results. Let's take the same prompt and we're going to go into ChatGPT. I'm going to drag these 2 photos in. And we'll move that thing out of the way. And I'm going to give it the same prompt and let's see what it does. Interesting. So we get some different, now I don't know how valid this data is. Some of this I'm actually doing on the fly because the point here is to show you that you're not guaranteed to get trustworthy results. What you are going to do is, I think, be a bit more productive with these tools than without. So let me say, save this data for me in a CSV file. Not bad. It's a starting point. Everything so far that you've seen me type into ChatGPT or Claude is known as a prompt. And you may have heard this term prompt engineering in the news. It's really the art of communicating effectively to the AI to get what you want. That being said, Budley or Peter, do we have any questions at this point that we want to address?
Yes, Matt, we do. Question number 1. On the ChatGPT demos that you are doing, is this a free version of ChatGPT or a paid version?
I have a paid version, but everything I did could be done 100% with the free version. I think one of the only big differences now is the usage limits in terms of how many queries you can do per day. Everything I've done so far can be done with the free version.
Okay, our next question, what strategies can be employed to optimize the performance of ChatGPT and other AI tools? How can we train ChatGPT to better understand and respond to industry-specific terminology and queries?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So from a technical point of view, the only people who are training ChatGPT are the people who build it, which is OpenAI. What you can do to help get better answers and optimize it is give better prompts, tell it about yourself. ChatGPT has a memory feature where you can tell it facts about you, which it'll remember. It has this concept called GPTs, where you can upload documents of yours, knowledge of yours, into a collection that ChatGPT can become familiar with and reference. It's really all in the art of prompting. The better you prompt, the better information you give it, the more information about specifically what you want and also what you do not want is how you get good answers. Hey, ChatGPT, don't, be succinct. Just give me bullet points. Don't editorialize. All those things are ways that you can get better answers.
Okay. Just a follow-up question on the free version. The question is, does the free version also allow you to save documents in Excel, Word, PDF, etc.?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll take a couple more questions. Are you going to talk today about how to protect confidential information that a user has from teaching the publicly available AI tool?
Yeah, I'll comment right here on two things. When you go into ChatGPT settings, under your profile, there is an option to prevent ChatGPT from using your data for its own future training purposes. So if you're concerned about that, you want to turn that on, which will prevent your data from being used. There is also this idea, sort of like with browsers, how you can have private sessions or incognito sessions. There is chats with ChatGPT where you can say, this is temporary, don't remember anything from this chat. That being said, I would still exercise caution about the things that you let ChatGPT know, because this is a quickly moving landscape here.
All right, one last question before we go on with the demos. Does ChatGPT work with pie charts and will it build presentations for you?
It will, yes. In fact, I didn't do an example with that, but I've done numerous things outside of this where I've said, hey, ChatGPT, here's an outline of a talk. Give me a PowerPoint presentation that follows this theme, and a few moments later, it'll create slides that I can download.
Excellent. Very good. All right, we'll let you get back to the demos, and everybody who's online, continue to submit questions, and we'll pause again to take questions a little bit farther into the presentation today.
And if we don't get to your question, feel free to email me. The email's in the slide deck later, or you'll see it, and you can follow up, and I'll follow up with you.
Very good.
This next example is how to get instructions from ChatGPT.
In this example, we're going to have ChatGPT look at an image of a desk phone I have at work and answer a question about how to use it. So I took a photo of the phone. How do I create speed dial entries on this phone? It says this is a Yealink T46S. Press the menu key, navigate to discover. Okay, so let's see if it got the phone right. So it is a Yealink T46S. So far, so good. Menu key, navigate to directory, local directory, and new contact. Let's try it out. Hit the menu key, directory, local directory, all contacts, add. It worked.
Example 7, one last photo-based example.
Let's take a photo here. We'll use that. how heavy is this bucket. Now, in order to figure this out, it needs to know the size of the bucket, which it ought to be able to figure out, and how much water's in the bucket. So it says a standard Home Depot bucket is 5 gallons. That's about right. From the image, the bucket looks about 3/4 full. It's actually a bit more than that, but it knew it was water. It knew it was almost full, and it knew it was a 5-gallon bucket. So it says the bucket weighs about 35 pounds, which is give or take what it weighs.
Generating visualizations. Let's visualize some data. On the left, I have my food log, which is an unstructured document showing the date and time of the things I ate. Let's drag that document into ChatGPT and ask it a couple questions. That is my personal food log. Create me a pie chart showing the food groups I consume. And it's off to the races. So here's what we got after a few moments. I would say this is not bad. Look at that. Not only did they give me a chart, but it is actually interactive. When I hover over it, it tells me what the category is. That is pretty neat. How about this? Draw me a histogram showing the frequency, the relative frequency of the foods and food groups I consume. This question's a little broader, more speculative. Let's see what it does. What I'm doing here is I'm pausing the recording while it goes off and thinks. Depending on the complexity of the question and how busy the system is, you may be waiting a while. Now, this is interesting. You'll notice that the answer isn't that useful. And I think the reason the answer isn't that useful is I asked a poor question. I said foods and food groups. So it's trying to take every single individual food that I ate. Let's do it more specifically. Do it again, but just give me the food groups, not individual foods. Ah, that's better. So, and it gave me an interactive visualization there as well. And I'm going to say save that image as a JPEG file. Okay, so it gave me the JPEG instead of an interactive chart, and now I can just say right-click and save.
Example number 9. Getting intelligence from unstructured data.
Situations where you have semi-structured or unstructured data, and you need to get answers from that data. So this right here is data that we previously created in one of the other examples. And it's a Word document with a customer list. Let's say that we want to get data or intelligence out of this document. Well, maybe we want to say how many customers came from a given zip code, or who was the customer that purchased the most, or what product categories did people purchase more or less than others. And I think one way to do that would be to copy and paste this data into a spreadsheet and do the work there. But one of the great uses of generative AI tools is doing that on semi-structured data like this. So in this example, I'm going to use Claude. And Claude is an AI model by Anthropic. It's also a generative AI tool. I'm going to drop that document into Claude. And the first question that we're going to ask is simply, how many customers do I have? Now we know that it's 100, but let's see if it gets it right. Okay, we have 100 customers. Super. So now I'm going to say, Which customers purchased within the last month? So it gives me that information. Keep in mind, this is something that we would have taken that data, we would have had to put it into a spreadsheet, put it into a database, otherwise to ask these questions. This AI is able to make sense of the data without that. Let's ask it more questions. Give me the top 10 customers by total purchase amount in descending order. There we go. Really powerful stuff, because now what I can do is I can target in a marketing campaign these customers and say, thank you for your big orders. How about this? Show me the customers who purchased saws and measuring tools. Look at that. So all these people purchase both saws and measuring tools. How about this one? Let's say we do want to send an email marketing campaign to the customers who purchased the most. How about this? I want to send a thank you email to the top 10 customers by total purchase volume. Generate an email for me according to the following template. And we're going to say, dear first name plus last name. Whoops. Let's do that again. Dear first name. In fact, I'll make a separate window here just to make it easier. So we'll say, dear first name plus last name. Thank you very much for your total purchases of total purchase amount. And it's going to fill that in. In appreciation for your business, we're offering you a 10% coupon. We also appreciate your last purchase on last purchase date. Now, you'll notice that I didn't specify the exact field names. Sort of fuzzy. I used just filler words. Let's see if it figures it out. There you go. And now we have verbiage that we can send. Example number 10, we're going to continue more on getting intelligence from unstructured data. I've been keeping a food log for about 5 months because I want to start working with a nutritionist. So the food log is pretty basic. I just have the date and then the time and what I've eaten. No particular format. It's kind of sloppy. And I'd like to give this, I could give it to my nutritionist, but it's 20 pages long. It takes a lot of reading. Let's see if Claude here can help. So I've uploaded the file into Claude. I'm going to say that is my food log. Tell me the major food groups I eat in descending order of consumption. Let's see how it does. Okay, not bad, not bad. Proteins, vegetables, very frequently avocado as avocado toast. Super, sounds good. What do I eat most? Okay, I like avocado toast for breakfast. Chicken, eggs. What do I eat least? Red meat. That is a very good point. I rarely, if ever, eat red meat, and I don't have a lot of fried food, so it got that properly. How late do I typically eat dinner? Not bad. When is the last time I ate fish, and how many times per week do I typically eat it? One thick tuna steak. I'll count the fish instances. Okay, no fish, no fish. A little bit of salmon. I seem to eat fish about 1 to 2 times a week. I'd like to do more. So this is pretty helpful. And finally, let's say, are there any food groups I am eating too much of or not enough of? Okay, that data wasn't that healthy. It said it can't make definitive statements, but the previous answers we got were pretty good. Example number 11. Now we're going to talk about chatting with ChatGPT with your voice. We're going to have a human-like voice chat with ChatGPT using its audio feature. I'm going to tap on that microphone. What are the 5 phases of cell division?
The 5 phases of cell division, specifically in mitosis, are 1. Prophase. Chromosomes condense and become visible. The nuclear envelope breaks down and spindle fire.
Actually, just give me the names of the 5 phases.
Sure, the 5 phases are 1. Prophase, 2. Prometaphase, 3. Metaphase, 4. Anaphase, 5. Telophase.
What was the third one again?
The third phase is metaphase.
And what was the first one?
The first phase is prophase.
Tell me about that one.
In prophase, chromosomes condense and become.
So you'll see in this example that I was having a real human-like conversation. It understood context. It understood semantically what I meant. When I said the third one, it knew. When I said the first one, it knew. When I said, tell me more, I didn't have to say, tell me more about. It just knew what I was talking about. It becomes in my opinion, much nicer and more human way to be able to search, because unlike when you do standard internet search today, you have to repeat the question differently in full each time. Whereas conversations with ChatGPT and other AI tools allow you to pick up from where you left off, and all the context is the history of that conversation, which it doesn't forget. Okay, Peter.
Yep, we've got a lot of questions. Let's go through some of them. And just one on the mechanics. And the example, the demos and the prompts that you are showing, will they be in what you distribute to our audience?
Yes, not only will we distribute the entire recording, but we're going to distribute individual links to watch each separate video.
Very good. Next question. If we use these AI tools on data that is behind a paywall, are there guidelines for avoiding copyright or other rights issues?
I think there's a couple of questions there. First of all, the way that you choose to use the results of the data is going to be subject to normal copyright rules. That being said, there's also a bunch of sort of madness going on today with respect to copyright issues in this area. How are Perplexity and OpenAI getting data? There's lawsuits, around this. The next angle here, and that is will eventually be worked out in courts. In general, if you work with these AI tools and you ask them to try to get data from behind paywalls, they won't be able to do it because they won't have logons to that data. So for the most part, these models have been trained using data that is publicly accessible. I say for the most part because the ones that are not part of that most part are where we're going to see court decisions. So I hope that that's addressing the question.
It is. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between ChatGPT and Claude?
ChatGPT and Claude are very similar, but they do have some important differences. I think that it's sort of a leapfrog game. Claude initially was known for its ability to understand language and to create copy. It's recently gotten, with its premier model, a bit faster than ChatGPT. Claude has recently added the ability to create interactive visualizations on the screen. That being said, ChatGPT tends to be more of a Swiss Army knife of tool. I think if your goal is to, I view these services like streaming services. You sort of have to have a handful of them. They don't all do the job. And something that works well in one may not work as well in the other. So like I said, it's continually a game of leapfrog. I think try your, for example, when I tell Claude today to generate data, generate files, it doesn't do as good of a job as ChatGPT, but that's continually going to change.
And briefly, can you just talk for a moment about Google Gemini?
Yeah, Google Gemini is, I've used it less than the others. Google Gemini is a very similar, tool. Google's obviously a massive player here. I think Google Gemini has, Google's been in the news. It is functionally equivalent, I think, to the other tools. I haven't used it enough to say what's different. Clearly, one of the benefits it has is Google has the biggest index of internet data of anybody. So theoretically, its training data ought to be much more comprehensive. Again, it's a moving target, and I'm just not exactly sure yet. I would say give it a play.
Okay, one last question, and we'll let you go back to the demos. This is a question related to Microsoft embedding Copilot into each of their Office apps, as well as a standalone tool. Talk for a moment, if you could, in terms of what Microsoft is doing with Copilot.
Yeah, my observation around what they're doing with Copilot is exactly what you said. So Copilot initially was sort of a standalone app, which I think used OpenAI's large language model on the back end. Now you're starting to see Copilot embedded into all of the Office tools, which means that rather than hopping, if you want to do something specific to Excel, rather than hopping over to a ChatGPT window or a separate Copilot window, you've got that interface right within the tool. And I suspect all the tool makers, Google is doing this already within Google Workplace or whatever it's called today. Microsoft is doing it in their tools. You're going to start to see, as this tooling and technology matures, that rather than being standalone tools, they're just going to be in everything. And you're not going to be talking about, the AI tool anymore. It's just going to be the tool. So if you're using Excel, it's going to have Excel with AI. If you're using Outlook, it's going to be Outlook with AI.
Got it. And one more question, they're coming in fast and furious before we go on. Can ChatGPT doing the reporting that you showed in one of your demos if your data is in a database rather than in a spreadsheet?
Yes, but you have to program that. So ChatGPT, OpenAI, all of these tools, they have APIs, which are ways that programmers can hook into that functionality. And if you go to the OpenAI API page, if you're a programmer, you Google that, and they'll show you how to start doing that. But that is not an end user facing capability today.
Got it. All right, thank you very much. We'll let you go back to the demos.
Thanks. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create a web page using AI. In this example, we're going to have ChatGPT create a basic web page template for us on something that we just sketched on paper. So I drew on paper this very basic web page to allow people to schedule hair appointments at my hair salon. So I took a photo of that, and let's drag it in. And after moving this stuff, I'm going to say to ChatGPT, build me the HTML for a web page that looks like the one in this picture. Let's see how good a job it does just with that. In this case, we're going to see what's going on behind the scenes. It's going to give me some HTML here. Looks good so far. Gives me a button. I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to say save that result to an HTML file for me. Let's try it out. Preferred date, time, email address, name, and a submit button. Not bad, not bad at all. If we carry that example one step further, put some more intelligence into it, we're going to say, do it again, but this time, give me a date picker that allows me to choose a date from the calendar. Do the same for a time picker. When I click the submit button, put up a message that says, thank you. Save the result to an HTML file for me. Okay, it's off to the races. And let's take a peek. Look at that. So now we have a date picker and we have a time picker, and I'll put in my email address and click submit, and it should say thank you. And it does. Example 13, we're going to do another AI web page. In this example, we're going to build another web page, but it's going to have real, actual functionality right on the page. So on the left of the screen, you can see that I mocked up a length conversion from US units of length to metric units of length. And I drew some text boxes and some pickers and a convert button. So here I'm saying, using that web page, build me an actually working web page that allows me to convert from US units of length to metric, allow the user to enter an imperial or US length, give them a picker dropdown allowing them to choose inch, foot, or yard. Do the same with metric, giving the choices millimeter, centimeter, and meter. When I click convert, fill in the metric equivalent, save this for me as an HTML file. And it's off to the races. So this is building the actual computer code behind the scenes that can run on my computer or on a web page anywhere by me copying and pasting it. So it looks like it's done. It's going to give me the resulting file, hopefully here in a minute. Here we go. Let's give it a try. Okay, it didn't make it look like the page, but it's not bad. So let's see what happens. I'm going to say 3 feet. And you'll notice the formatting is pretty off. It didn't format it like we wanted it, but it's a good start. I'm going to say 10 inches is about 1/3 of a meter. Let's evolve this thing a little bit further this time. We'll go back here and we'll say, do it again. Whoops. Do it again, but use the same layout from my sketch. It's doing its thing. Let's see how it did. Okay, it still didn't do the format, but let's still give it a try. We're going to say 50 feet in centimeter. 50 feet is 15 meters. Okay, now let's carry this one step further and forget about the layout for a minute. Let's do this. Do it again, but give me a button that allows me to switch the direction of the conversion from US to metric, from US to metric to US. And it's doing its thing. It's done. We'll give it a try. File not found. That's what happens sometimes. Let's try it again. I'm glad you saw that error, because the point here is not perfect, sexy demos, but to let you know the reality of how this stuff works. And it is often a work in progress. So let's click it, and it worked that time. And look at that, switch direction. Did it do it? Ah, interesting. So it switched the direction of the label, but it didn't actually switch the direction of the page. I'm not disappointed it didn't work. The point here is that through a combination of good prompting and some iteration and some experimentation, you can quickly get something from sketch to prototype to your customer. Example 14, we're going to show you AI-based internet search. In this next example, we're going to use a product called Perplexity, which is an AI search product. So AI, when added to search, gives you the ability to have human-like conversations with the search engine, like we've shown in ChatGPT and Claude, how we've had human-type interactions with text, except here it's applied to search. Normally, when you ask Google a question, if the results aren't right, you can't say to it, no, what I really meant was. You have to start all over with a new query, and you have to keep going until you get that query right. So the benefits of natural language are brought to search. In addition, AI-powered search engines like Perplexity can synthesize results for you and give you the best of what it's put together, what it's curated for you. Google is starting to do this now with search results. So I'm in the market for an electric weed whacker. Most important to me are reliability, battery life, and performance, also cost. I want Perplexity to give me 5 recommendations ranked by cost in descending order, and I want it in a table with the manufacturer, the product name, a description, and the cost. And let's see how it does it. So it's searching the web in the background. Like everything else, this may take a second, it may take a few minutes. You just don't know until you do it, because this thing is really a living experiment. So it's filtering the results. It's doing some things in the background. You can see it's generating its own software code to do that. Now we're at the point where it's making a decision on what to recommend me. And here we go. So it has 5 manufacturers. It gives me the sources of where it got that information, product names, descriptions, and cost. Let's do this. Notice it says ask a follow-up question. This gets to my point before, is we can continue to have a conversation like we would with a human being. We don't have to start over. I'm going to say for each product recommendation, give me a link to purchase it. So it's going to go back and it's going to add that information to the table. And hopefully we get something a little bit more usable. So it did it again, but it's not putting it in table form, at least not yet. So do it again, but give it to me in a table. And it shouldn't have to start all over because it already has the information. Okay, we got different sources this time. Maybe more sources, maybe better sources, not sure. Look at that. I apologize for the confusion. So it recognizes that it should have done a table and didn't. So that's a little bit disappointing here, that it only was able to give me one link. Why is that? So I'm going to say, do it again, table format, but make sure to always find and include links. Okay, so it looks at reviews again. There we go. And now we have a set of recommendations that are actionable. Let's carry the conversation a little bit further. It's giving me some tools that are 60 volt, some that are 40 volt. I'm going to say limit the results to 20 volt tools as I want to keep the cost down. Keep everything else the same. Looks like it did it. 20 volt, 20 volt, 20 volt, 20 volt, 20 volt. It's ranked in decreasing order of cost, and I have links. Let's do a second example of AI search. We're going to see another example here of where AI search can really excel. So everybody's been tire shopping, and it's a super pain because it's very difficult to compare and contrast one tire to another. So because AI search has by definition the ability to go out on the web, look at web pages, and get information from them, I'm going to take a look at using that functionality. So I'm going to say I drive a 2019 Tesla Model 3. I'm a speed demon, and I like to drive in the rain. So performance and safety are very important to me. I've narrowed down my choices to the following 3 tires, and I'd like you to compare them for me based on the priorities, which I spelled wrong, that I mentioned earlier. And we'll put those in, and let's see what it does. Based on the performance in rainy conditions, those are the 3 options. Okay, so it gives me some good verbiage here, makes a recommendation. Based on my priority, safety, and wet conditions, either of those 2 would be the best. So I'm going to say, do it again. Put the results in a table format. Be succinct. S-U-C-C-I-N-C-T. Highlight the differences only. Sumitomo more closely matched, better aligned. Goodyear is more oriented towards comfort and mobility. So once again, the point here, which I really want to emphasize, is that this AI search was able to take disparate information from the web, follow the links, bring it back, summarize it, synthesize it, and then make a recommendation to me. Peter?
Yes, Matt.
There's so we have 2 more. Why don't we take a few questions now? We'll do the last 2, and then we'll have time for more questions, and I can do some live demos at the end, depending if people want that.
Very good. You talked about perplexity already. That was a question. The next question we have, can one of these programs help modify websites that people have for their businesses?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Can these AI programs that you've demoed today, can they be used to actually modify, change, update websites that a business owner would have?
Got it. Most of these tools wouldn't be appropriate to do that in real time, meaning you wouldn't have a live website and say to one of the AI tools, go modify that. Now, that being said, some of the major website platforms like Squarespace or Wix or whatever, they are all building in their own AI tools. So the answer actually may be yes, if the platform owner builds it in. The tools we're showing today wouldn't have the ability to do that.
Understood. Next question, are there any certification programs or courses available for gaining proficiency in using AI tools like ChatGPT?
Just go play with it. There's so much good stuff on YouTube. There's so much good stuff, I couldn't even recommend it. Check out videos. In fact, the videos I enjoy the most are the ones that are 2 minutes long. They show you how to do one thing, they get you excited, you pursue more. So I wouldn't call it certification, but this is really a hands-on thing.
Very good. One of the questions was, how did you do the videos that you showed today? What tool did you use to produce the demos and the videos that you use today?
I did most of the recording with a tool called Loom, Loom. They have both a browser plugin, they have a desktop version, and they have a phone version. In some other cases, I just recorded right on the iPhone using the iPhone's ability to record the screen.
Very good. Okay, we've cleared the current questions and back to you.
Great. Okay, we're now going to show an example of analyzing a personal investment report from a financial advisor. This example is going to focus on a personal investment report, which is a sample document that I downloaded from the internet. Apparently, this individual has a stock and bond portfolio managed by some investment advisor, and they've created a report for the individual. So I'm going to bring this document into Claude, and before I ask new questions of the document, I'm going to ask it some basic questions of things that we already know the answer to, just to make sure that Claude gets it right. So I've dragged in the document, and I'm going to say, read that personal investment report. Okay, so it gives me an overall summary. It says the total portfolio was 545,000. It got that right, 82% to 18. That sounds good. Am I heavy in my holdings of any particular sector? And hopefully it tells me that I'm overweight in healthcare. Yes, I'm overweight in healthcare. Sounds good. Let's ask it one or two more questions. Portfolio diversification. So let's say, give me a table with the allocation of my portfolio between cash, US stocks, and bonds. Put everything else into an other category. Bonds 18%. Perfect. That looks pretty consistent with here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ask it some questions where the answers may not be explicitly mentioned. Tell me my tech stock holdings. Give me a table with the name of the company, the number of shares I own, and the total current market value. Do it in decreasing order of value. Okay, so it looks like I own Microsoft, followed by Apple and Alphabet and Meta. So far, so good. You'll notice that it knew that these were technology stocks without the document necessarily saying so. Now, let's say that I want to total my holdings in chip companies. What is the total current market value of the chip companies? NVIDIA, Broadcom, and Qualcomm. I forgot to include Texas Semi and On Semi, but we get the point. So it shows me the total for each of them. Let's change gears. How might I better diversify my fixed income portfolio? Extend duration in terms of maturity, spread out the maturities, increase active management, diversify bond types. Keep in mind, some of these answers may or may not actually be in the document, and in some cases, the AI is doing some calculations to come up with those answers. Let's see if it can do this. What are some major current technology stocks that I do not own and I may want to consider owning? So this is a good answer. It says I don't own Amazon or Adobe or Salesforce or Intel or Oracle. So that information certainly wasn't in the report. And I'm going to ask it one final question. How have I performed relative to the S&P 500? Doesn't have enough information. So it tells me how to do it, but it doesn't have enough information, which is interesting. It should be able to go and get that, but not every query is successful. Okay, let's try one more. I am very risk averse. I value maintaining my assets over growing them. Is this portfolio appropriate for that? And it should say no. It does not appear to be well aligned with a risk-averse strategy. So the answer is right there. So I'd say it did an okay job here. And one more demo that's pre-recorded about analyzing small business financial statements. In this example, we're going to use both ChatGPT and Claude to analyze some fictitious financial statements and give us some insights. So I've got financial statements, got a balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow for a sample business for 2 fiscal years. So let's give it the 2023 data. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT the role I want it to play. So you are a financial, you are an expert financial analyst. Take a look at the attached financial statements for this company and give me your insights. Be succinct. Give me recommendations on how to improve performance or any problems you are seeing. It'll happily ignore my spelling errors. And we get some results. So we see a summary of the key financial metrics between the statements. It says we're healthy. Let's look at areas for improvement. High salary, marketing and travel, accounts receivable. Okay, so now it makes recommendations. Now, let's do this next part here. Let's drag in 2022 data. Boom, boom, boom. That's 2022 data for the same company.
compare year-over-year performance and give me some insights. Excellent. At the end, I think it's going to give me some analysis about the performance differences it's seeing. Here we go. Company experienced modest revenue increase. We had a profit decline, meaning higher expenses or lower margins. Talks about expense management, pricing strategy, yada, yada, yada. So you can dig in with questions like that. Let's ask it something else. What are my opportunities for achieving better operating leverage? And so operating leverage is your ability to generate more efficiency from every dollar of cost for each additional amount of revenue. Let's see what it says. Expand service offerings, upsell and cross. So those are pretty generic. I'm not really happy with those results. Answer again, but be specific to my data. Okay, so it's kind of giving me some of the same stuff. Some ideas here, not so much financial advice, but more general business advice. Let's switch over to Claude. And what I'm going to do in Claude is I'm going to upload the same 6 files. And I'm going to say, build me an interactive dashboard comparing fiscal years 2022 to 2023. And it looks like it didn't take the data. So let's drag that in one more time. I can add 5 attachments to a chat. Okay, let's look just at the income statement and balance sheet, and we'll add them. And we'll get an interactive dashboard from it. Okay, so it's going to do some magic. And we've got a summary here, and we've got a infographic of revenue, expenses, net income. And here's where it gets interactive, comparing expenses, net income. I guess that's total revenue. Yep, expenses, net income, assets, liabilities for each year. And let's ask it one last question. Let's say, make me an interactive infographic specifically around the expense categories for 2023. And the result is a pretty decent looking graphic broken down by major expense buckets. It's not interactive, but it got the infographic part correct. So you could print this on a nice piece of paper or on a PDF and email it out. So that's it for the recorded demos. In the time left, I'm happy to take any questions or do any demos live if you're interested in playing around.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Matt. Let's just go through a few more questions. And then we'll see what time we have left. Question, is there a switch or setting to tell the AI tool to always use current data when it searches without having to say so in every prompt?
So in general, the tool, if you're providing data to the tool, it ought to pick up where it left off, as though you're having a conversation, with another human. They would have that context. If you're talking about the data that the AIs were trained on, they're going to provide what they think is the most appropriate result, with recency being just one component of that. But if it's your data that you're talking about providing, then it ought to remember where you last left off in the conversation and keep that context in mind as it answers your next question.
Okay, great. Next question, going back to websites and creating websites. The question revolves around, can you create a website, excuse me, that can actually be used, or is it simply setting up a template about what it could look like?
So if you look at some of the third-party website hosters like Squarespace, and I think I mentioned Wix, and there's so many others. If I'm not mistaken, they are all introducing AI-based website generation where you will be able to describe soup to nuts the website that you would like, and it will generate those pages live in real time to do exactly that.
Got it. Let's go back to a topic that you talked about earlier today, but another follow-up question in terms of confidential data, sharing confidential data with the AI tool. Can you just give our audience some pointers, rules of thumb in terms of data, confidential data, and protecting your intellectual property as you use these AI tools?
Yeah, I mean, I would be mindful of sharing data with these services or companies in exactly the same way you were mindful of it before these tools came out. Your property is your property. You want to establish appropriate use rights. If you have something that is personally sensitive, I certainly wouldn't post it to an AI. I think you should look for the AI providers to make very clear statements about data privacy and about use of data, and look for regulation that talks about that. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to manage that which you share. And as I said, with ChatGPT, and I think Claude has a similar thing, you can turn off an option, or turn on an option, I should say, to prevent them from using your data. Now, that doesn't mean they can't or they won't. It means that you're suggesting they don't, and hopefully they're following their own rules and that they don't have a breach. But at the end of the day, don't share that with which you are concerned can get into the wild.
Okay. One last question I think should clear the queue. Which AI tools crawl the web versus accessing only the data they were trained on, which is usually 2 years old?
Yeah, so most of the tools, even ChatGPT and Claude, were trained on data sets that crawled the web. I think in both of those cases, they either did the crawling themselves or they relied on open source web crawler data. Perplexity is one which crawls the web in real time to help get answers to your questions and to help synthesize data. The other thing is that Gemini and I think OpenAI with ChatGPT have the ability today to get real-time web access during a query. So if you ask ChatGPT a question for which the answer is after the ChatGPT training window, it can still go out in real time and get that data from the web.
Excellent. Matt, I think we'll bring the seminar to a close. It's been a phenomenal learning experience, so thank you for your time and all the work you've put into the demos. As we have said throughout this presentation, the materials will be available within a couple of days You'll either get an email from SCORE, or you can always go on to the fairfieldcounty.score.org website for a replay. Once again, SCORE offers free individual counseling, so please use the link on the screen or visit our website and click Request a Mentor. You will get evaluations. We look at those evaluations and we ask you to fill out the evaluations and give us your comments so we can continue to make these free seminars even better for you. On behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar. And Matt, great job. Very much appreciated. Thank you. And we'll bring our webinar to a close. Thank you.